Okay, so what is a rhetorical analysis? And a rhetorical analysis is analyzing the methods used by a writer or speaker to persuade his or her target audience, and evaluating the degree to which those methods were successful or not. So you look at something that's persuasive, and then you determine what did the author use to persuade those audience members, and how effective was it. So something to think about as far as persuasion, there can be two forms of persuasion. That we usually think of method one, which is changing someone's mind, and there's also another form of persuasion, which is galvanizing your own group members to action. So, like, they already agree with you, and you're just trying to rile them up so that they will agree with you more, or that they'll do something. So you're preaching to the choir, essentially. The people already support you, and you're just trying to rile them up and get them to believe what you want. So those are the things you have to look for. You have to read an article and think, who's the audience of this article? Are they trying to persuade someone who is of a different mindset, or are they trying to preach to their own choir and sort of persuade people that already believe what they believe to believe it even stronger, or to do something? So once you figure out that, then you can move to the next step, which is methods. What did the author do? Or what did the author use to persuade? If you want to know about things that you can write about, you can go to this document here, which is Criteria for a Rhetorical Analysis, and that's under course materials. So if you go to course materials right here, right above the discussion board, you'll see that there's a document here. So this document will give you everything that you need to know to write a rhetorical analysis. So that's the basic idea, is that the author uses certain methods in order to persuade his audience or her audience, and you have to find those methods and then analyze them and then talk about how effective was it. So an important thing to think about is some pitfalls to avoid. Okay, so I'm going to call this pitfall number 1 for assignment 2, is arguing with the author. Because this is a paper that you are supposed to analyze the methods used by a writer or speaker, then you're just supposed to look at what the author is doing and analyze it objectively, and how you feel about the argument is kind of irrelevant, because the point is not to agree or disagree with the author. It's to analyze what the author did. So if you want to analyze what the author did, then you can't take a position on what the author is arguing. For example, I don't like using this it's kind of a ridiculous example, but for example, Hitler we all know that what he did in the 20th century was monstrous. We all know that it was horrible. He's sort of become like the face of evil as we know it. So but some people might ask, how did he get the Germans to buy into the Holocaust and to buy into what he was doing? How did he get people to support this idea about the Third Reich? And how did he get people on board? So you might think someone's a monster, but still be able to separate your opinion, sort of put that on a shelf, and then look at the methods that a person used and analyze how did they do it, what methods were used. And that's so how did he persuade his audience to support his actions? That's a really important question for a rhetorical analysis. So it's not it's not your position in this paper to take a side for or against or say what you think about what the author is claiming. The whole point is for you to analyze what they are saying and how did they persuade their audience and did they do it effectively. So very, very importantly, you may not be in the target audience. That's pitfall number 2. Assuming you are in the target audience. So I'll look at this example here in the New York Times, Don't Blame the Eater by David Zinchenko. So this article was written in 2002. So you might not be in that audience, and you have to think, who are the people that he's talking to? You know, he makes a mention of Jay Leno and monologues, and he also mentions things about how the nutritional information is not listed on the food. So, you know, there are no calorie information charts on fast food packaging the way there are on grocery items. So this information is actually outdated. So at the time this was written, McDonald's was not producing nutritional information on the packaging. So you have to think about who his audience is. His audience is not people right now. It's people then in 2002. So that's what you have to think. You have to read the article and you have to think, okay, what are they doing? How are they doing it? And how did they get to persuade their audience? Did they persuade their audience? And how effectively do you think they did it? So that's the basic idea of this assignment. I hope that clears things up for you and gives you kind of an overview of what this paper is about.